Please take your seats. The Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University of Ibadan, I welcome you to the 2025 Convocation Lecture. The Convocation Lecture is usually part of the convocation ceremonies, and this year is not an exception, it is a norm. But this year we are having somebody from the diaspora, somebody who is going to talk to us about Africa. But before we listen to the lectures, I'd like to make a few recognitions. I'd like to recognize the presence of the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Kayode Oyebode Adibowale, MNI, FAS, FS, PSP. The Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration is also here with us, Professor Peter Olamakinde Olakpigba, C, Psych, FMPA, FS, PSP. Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Juwon Arotiba. Ochara, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Strategic Partnerships, Professor Olutoyin Akintola. The Registrar of the University is here this afternoon, Mr. Ganiu Oke Saliu. The Bossa, Mr. Adewuyi Popola. University Librarian, Dr. Masi Iroaganachi. We have many of our deans here. Dean of Arts, Professor R. Olaniyi. Dean of Science, Professor Ibrahim Oladoshu. Dean of Agriculture, Professor Tolu Oshosanya. Dean of the Social Sciences, Professor B.O. Ehige. Dean of Vet Medicine, Professor B.O. Olugasa. Dean of Law, Professor J.O.A. Akintayo. Dean of Economics and Management Sciences, Professor O.A. Folawewo. Dean of Renewable Natural Resources, Professor Adejoke Akinyele. And Dean of Environmental Design and Management, Professor A.M. Alabi. We also have Dean of Nursing, Professor Priska Adejumo. Dean of Students, Professor Demola Louis. The University Orator, Professor C.O. Aimako. I must beg your pardon. I did not do my job well. I apologize. I should have introduced the Provost of the Postgraduate College and the College of Medicine before the Deans. So it's my pleasure now to introduce the Provost of the College of Medicine, Professor T.O. Oguniran, but he's not here. He's being represented by the Dean of Basic Medical Sciences, Professor Yoronke Odunola. I also have the Provost of the Postgraduate College, Professor A.S.O. Ogujuyigbe. My sincere apologies, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have in this audience the 10th Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Olufemi Bamiro. We also have the immediate past registrar of the university, Mrs. Bumi Faluyi. The people who are known for literary works in this country, one of them is here ably representing the others, Professor Ayo Bangbushi. Sage of Education in Africa, a former chairman of the board of the West African Examination Council, Emeritus Professor Pius Augustine Obaya, Pi Obaya, a former dean of the Old Faculty of Pharmacy and immediate past Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University, Professor Chinedum Peace Babalola. We also have members of the University Governing Council here in our midst. I recognize the presence of the head of the Department of Zoology and member of the Governing Council, Professor Aino Adeogun. I recognize the presence of a senior deputy registrar and member of Governing Council, Mr. Ibukun Akibola. Director, Office of Alumni Relations, Professor Kubi Olasokwe. Director of UI Water, Professor E.A. Ajav. Director of Paulesi, Professor Mubo Shonibare. And one of the living ancestors of this university, Encyclopedia of University Information, Dr. Gani Adeniran. And I'd like to recognize the presence of the chairman, UI Ceremonies Committee, Professor Adenike Akinjobi. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have all come here to listen to a lecture to be given by a literary giant, because he's a professor, she is a professor of English. But for the purpose of this lecture, we're going to refer to her as Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Anyang Agbor, former Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, African Union Commission. Thank you very much for that resounding applause. And I want us all to give ourselves another round of applause for being part of this program. It's my pleasure now to invite, I'm sorry, did I introduce the Director, Office of Alumni Relations? Professor, oh, thank you very much, sir. It's my pleasure now to invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Kayode Adebowale, who is also doubling as the chairman of this occasion, to give his welcome address.
The Public Relations Officer has already established the protocol, but let me just make very few recognitions. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Strategic Partnerships, the Registrar, the Bossa, the University Librarian, Provost of the College of Medicine, Provost of the Postgraduate College, Deans of Faculties, Directors of Institutes, the Dean of Students also, the 10th Vice Chancellor of this university, the 12th Registrar of this very great university, the living ancestors that are present here. At least we can identify two that will represent the others, Professor Ayo Bangbushi and Professor Pius Obaya, the former Vice Chancellor of Chrisland University, the Director of Paulesi, my senior brother, Dr. Gani Adeniran, our esteemed students that are present here, distinguished academics, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with profound sense of honor and a heart that is full of pride that I welcome you all to this pivotal event in the calendar of our great university, the 2025 Convocation Lecture. This lecture is a cornerstone of the activities marking the 77th Convocation and Foundation Day ceremonies, a period where we not only celebrate the academic accomplishments of our graduating students, but also reflect on our institutional legacy and our role in shaping the future. Today, we are gathered to engage with a topic of monumental importance, not just for Nigeria, but for the entire African continent. Agenda 2063, all hands on deck for the Africa we want. The choice of this theme is both deliberate and prophetic. Agenda 2063 is the Africa's strategic framework and blueprint for transforming the continent into a global powerhouse of the future. It is a bold and audacious vision, one that aspires for an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. However, a blueprint remains a mere document unless it is internalized, it is owned and activated by the people for whom it was created. The phrase, all hands on deck, is therefore the operational soul of this vision. It is a clarion call for a collective action, for a synergistic partnership between governments, the private sector, civil society, academia, and most importantly, the vibrant youth of Africa. To guide our understanding of this critical agenda, we are exceptionally privileged to have a luminary who did not just study this blueprint, but who was instrumental in its crafting and implementation at the highest level. She is a distinguished academic, a renowned administrator, and a formidable force in the Pan-African movement, and a great alumnus of this university. Her Excellency Professor Sarah Agbor, the former Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology at the African Union Commission. She was at the very epicenter of Agenda 2063 architecture. She understands, more than most, the intricate threads that weave together education, scientific innovation, and human capital development as a non-negotiable engines for achieving the Africa that we want. Her insights are not theoretical. They are born of experience, struggle, and a deep-seated passion for our continent. We are truly honored to have her, Professor Agbor, to deliver this lecture. The University of Ibadan, as Nigeria's premier university, has always seen its destiny as intricately linked with the destiny of Africa. For over 7 decades, we have been a citadel of knowledge production, nurturing leaders, innovators, and critical thinkers who have shaped the trajectory of our nation and our continent. In the context of Agenda 2063, our role is unequivocal. We are the deck upon which these hands are trained, equipped, and inspired. Therefore, our universities must serve as innovation hubs, driving scientific and technological advancement that is required for aspiration of Agenda 2063, a prosperous Africa that is based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Our universities must serve as centers for Pan-African thought, fostering the spirit of integration, celebrating our shared heritage, and deconstructing the artificial barriers that seems to divide us. Our universities must serve as nurseries for ethical leadership, instilling in our students the values of integrity, accountability, and service, which are fundamental to good governance. Our universities must serve as solution factories, directing our research energies towards solving Africa's peculiar challenges, from food security and public health to infrastructure and sustainable energy. The Africa we want must be conceived. It must be designed. It must be built within institutions like this one. It is a future we must intellectualize and, importantly, actualize. To our esteemed graduates, who I know some of them are present here, who are the immediate reason for this convocation, this lecture is particularly significant to you. You are not just graduating into a world of opportunities. You are graduating into a continent with a defined, ambitious destiny. You are the primary owners and the ultimate executors of Agenda 2063. The year 2063 may seem very distant to you today, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The steps that you take in your careers, your communities, and your personal development in the coming years will collectively determine whether this grand vision remains a dream or becomes a reality. You are the doctors, you are the engineers, you are the artists, you are the entrepreneurs, you are the policymakers and academics whose hands must be firmly on the deck, steering the African ship towards the desired horizon. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare to receive the wisdom from our illustrious guest speaker, let us open our minds and ready our spirits for a transformative discourse. Let this be more than a lecture. Let it serve as a reawakening of our collective responsibility. I thank you for listening.
I now invite the university orator, Professor Sio Aimaku, to read the citation of the guest lecturer.
Standing on the existing protocol created by the Vice-Chancellor, I ask for permission, dear sir, to go ahead with the oration of our speaker. John Rowe said, and I quote, "Whoever renders service to many puts himself, or indeed herself, in line for greatness, great wealth, great returns, great satisfaction, great reputation, and great joy." With this, I would like to introduce our speaker for this 2025 convocation lecture, Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Umbi Eno Anyang Agbor. She's a professor, poet, policymaker, and advocate for education, gender, and youth. Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Anyang Agbor, is a distinguished scholar, poet, and visionary leader with over 25 years of experience in academia and public service. She's a professor of African and Commonwealth literature, and she has dedicated her career to advancing knowledge, fostering innovation, and promoting education across Africa and indeed beyond. She previously served as Inspector of Academic Affairs No. 1 in the Ministry of Higher Education, Cameroon, and a Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research, Cooperation, and Relations with the business world at the University of Birmingham. She's a Fulbright Scholar in Residence at the University of Scranton, USA, and Professor Agbor is the author of several academic books and numerous publications that have enriched scholarships in her field. In July 2017, she was elected Commissioner for Education, Service, Technology, and Innovation of the African Union, a position she held with distinction for 5 years. During her tenure, a lot was accomplished. She championed the implementation of the African Union's Agenda 2063, as mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, through transformation strategies such as the Continental Education Strategy for Africa 2016 to 2025, the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa 2025, the Technical and Vocational Education and Training, amongst others. She also strengthened partnerships with member states, regional economic communities, and global stakeholders. Additionally, I must say, she has facilitated continental and international collaborations with organizations such as the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, the European Union, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, amongst others. Professor Agbor's leadership extended beyond policies into advocacy and youth empowerment. And this is one area she's very known for, where she has worked tirelessly to build ecosystems that integrate education, innovation, research, and entrepreneurship. She has been instrumental in amplifying the voices of women and young people, ensuring inclusive access to quality education, skills, training, and opportunity for sustainable livelihood. Currently, she serves as Inspector of Administration number 2 in the Ministry of Higher Education. She also serves as chairperson of Forum for Innovation in African Universities. She has so much energy. She also serves as deputy board chair of the Forum for African Educational. I'm not done. She's a board member of the UNESCO Institute of Lifelong Learning. She's also a trustee, board member of the African Progress Group, an advisory body member of the United Nations Institute for Training, Research, amongst others. She's also a former vice chairperson of the UNESCO UIL governing body in recognition of her exemplary services and outstanding contributions to the African Union. She was conferred the higher honor of the Commander of the National Order of Valor by the President of Cameroon. I could go on and on, but we're here to listen to a lecture. So permit me, as I say, an end that Professor Sarah Anyang Agbor's enduring priority is to influence regional ecosystems of entrepreneurship, education, and innovations, particularly for women, youth, and marginalized groups, empowering them to access quality education, training, and skills that transform lives, families, and communities across Africa. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I would like to introduce and call to the podium Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Umbi Eno Anyang Agbor, a professor, poet, policymaker, and advocate for education, gender, and youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Greatest UIs. Greatest UIs. Greatest of the greatest and the greatest and the greatest UI. I'm humbled and I'm proud to be back home. Thank you very much. I don't see why I need to give this lecture again, because the distinguished VC has already done part of my job. Agenda 2063, all hands on deck for the Africa we want. How many of us in this hall know about Agenda 2063? How many of us know about the SDG goals? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to start with that preamble. Now, the Vice Chancellor, the distinguished professor, I sincerely want to appreciate you inviting me to take this lecture. We have met out of the country many times in different fora to give speeches. all the Deputy Vice Chancellors here present, distinguished members of the Senate, deans here present, directors here present. I will want to acknowledge my sister, the VC of University, who is now seated there. And she won the African Union Prize for the best scientists, women scientists, when I was commissioner. I want to, please, don't be offended. I have my friends, my classmates seated here. I just want to recognize them. Don't be angry. Professor Aina Adeogun and Professor Kubi Olasope, those are my classmates. We were together. Thank you very much. Distinguished members of Senate, faculty and staff, the director of Paulesi, I'm happy Paulesi is still alive. Thank you very much. And then, faculty and staff, graduating students, esteemed parents, captains of industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Ekurole. It is with deep gratitude and a sense of duty that I stand before you tonight in this temple of knowledge, the great University of Ibadan, a beacon of intellectual excellence, not only in Nigeria, but across our beloved continent. As we used to say far back in those days, there are only two universities in Africa, the University of Ibadan and, thank you. We gather tonight not only to celebrate academic achievements, but to renew our collective faith in Africa's future, to remind ourselves that the greatness of our continent does not lie in what other thinks of us, but in what we dare to build for ourselves. Agenda 2063, the first slide. I want to introduce the imperative of a collective African renaissance. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Africa stands today at a defining moment. We are a continent blessed beyond measure. Just imagine that 65% of arable land is found in Africa, 35% of diamonds found in Africa, and that the greatest country that produces uranium is Niger. Abundant in minerals, rich in culture, we are young in spirit and vast in potential. Yet, we face contradictions that challenge our progress. And what is this? Poverty in the middle of wealth, unemployment amidst opportunity, and fragmentation amidst shared destiny. That is why I ask the question, how many of us know about Agenda 2063? But all of us know SDG 2030. In 2013, during the 50th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity, African leaders adopted Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. It was a 50-year-old vision, not merely as a policy document, but as a declaration of faith in our capacity to shape our own destiny. African solutions for African challenges. Agenda 2063 calls upon all of us, whether governments, universities, business leaders, civil society, parents, and youth, to join hands in building a prosperous, integrated, and peaceful Africa driven by its own competent citizens. The message is clear. The time for lamentation is over. The era of dependency must end. This is the age of action, of collective responsibility, of all hands on deck. Like the VC rightly said, that it cannot be a blueprint if it is not implemented. So, this is the age of action, of collective responsibility, of all hands on deck. Tonight, we reflect on a question that goes beyond individual success. What Africa do we want? We are to reflect on a question that concerns all of us, and it is, what kind of Africa do we want by 2063? And let me just throw this to you. Agenda 2063 came before SDG 2030. A 50-year plan divided into 5 phases of 10 years each. Do we revision or do we envision an Africa free from poverty, free from conflict, an Africa where youth innovate in science, technology, and culture, an Africa where women are fully empowered, governance is transparent, and development is people-driven? It is not a government of chop, I chop. Like we say in my country, belle go for front, country go for back. Do you understand that pidgin? Belle go for front, country go for back. An Africa where women are fully empowered, governance is transparent, and development is people-driven. The African Union, in its wisdom, during our 50th anniversary in 2013, gave us a blueprint, the Africa we want. Like the VC rightly said, it is more than a policy document. It is a moral call to action, a challenge to every African to step forward, to innovate, and to lead. This is the Africa envisioned in Agenda 2063, a blueprint for Africa's transformation by 2063. And this evening, I want to lecture you about that Africa and why we all have a great role to play in creating it. So, as we are going to be celebrating, I invite us to reflect on how we can each contribute to this renaissance, not as a spectator of history, but as a builder of destiny. Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. When the African Union articulated Agenda 2063, it envisioned a continent that would, by its centenary, because that will become 100 years, by its centenary in 2063, will stand tall among the nations of the world, strong, united, and self-reliant. But what is Agenda 2063? It rests on 7 aspirations. Each one pillar is a form of transformation. The first aspiration is a prosperous Africa. The second aspiration is an integrated and united continent. The third, an Africa of good governance and justice. Can we really speak of good governance and justice in Africa? A culturally confident Africa, where we are proud of our culture and we do not lose sight of where we are coming from. A culturally confident Africa, a people-driven Africa, especially its women and youth. Not that women will always be seen and not heard, and not that the youth will be said to be leaders of tomorrow, but we don't make them co-creation members at the table right now. And finally, an Africa that is influential and respected globally. These aspirations are not abstract. They are measurable targets, benchmarks. For example, aspiration 1 speak of inclusive growth and sustainable development, calling for industrialization, agricultural modernization, and climate resilience. Aspiration 6 demands that our development be people-driven, relying on the potential of women, youth, and children. Every aspiration connects to the next because Africa's progress is indivisible. You cannot have good governance without peace. You cannot have peace without prosperity. And you cannot have prosperity without educated, empowered people. That, my friends, is the essence of the Africa we want. Slide 5. Building resilient cities, the engines of Africa's transformation. Africa is urbanizing faster than any other region in the world. By 2050, nearly 60% of our population will live in cities. But here lies both promise and peril. If we plan well, our cities will become engines of creativity, commerce, and culture. And if we fail, they will become centers of chaos, of congestion, pollution, and inequality. As we drove in from Lagos to Ibadan, I saw some transformation in Ibadan. The roads are wider. The bere I used to know, the gbagi I used to know, the songo I used to know, were all looking different because of science and technology. Before, they used to say, Omi yale, Agbara shekini. In our days, 1987 to 1998, it was a story of Omi yale. And when they speak of Ibadan, the city on 7 hills, what do you see? Zincs that are brown, that are no longer looking good. But the story is different today because science, technology, and innovation has taken place, and because governance has a vision. So we must therefore build resilient cities, cities that can withstand shocks, adapt to change, and sustain growth. Imagine cities with clean water, renewable energy, you know. This is, don't be angry, sir. Yesterday I came, the light was off. I had to climb that staircase to the VC's office. Today again, have come, is the same story. You know, when I go back to Cameroon, when there is no light, I normally shout NEPA, up NEPA. But our own is NEO. So my husband would say it's not up NEPA, it's up NEO. I don't know if we still have the same problem now. Because I know that Nigeria gives light to Chad. Nigeria gives light to Niger. So we should not have light problem in Nigeria. So, we must have cities where informal settlements are not bulldozed, but upgraded. Where technology connects citizens to services. Just imagine the houses that has been broken down in Lagos, in Makoko. Is it Makoko? I tried to watch Arise TV before coming here. So I know some things. Like in Makoko, those people were staying right at Bar Beach. And then we used to, I don't know if Bere is still as the Bere I used to know. I'm sure with the change that is here, that Bere will no longer be existing. It will be a modern Bere. So imagine cities with clean water, renewable energy, green transport, and affordable housing. Cities where informed settlements are not bulldozed, but upgraded. Where technology connects citizens to services. Where communities are engaged, empowered, and proud. That is why our research must leave the shelf and move to the people as finished products. That is why the university must connect with industries in order to make your researches that you carry out to become blueprints, things that are tangible things that they can hold in order to move on. Why should we be buying Panadol from India? Why should we be buying malaria tablets from India, where we can produce locally, even among ourselves? And I think I should be directing that question to Professor Peace Babalola. In Kigali, civic engagement through Umuganda, community service has transformed the city into one of Africa's cleanest capitals. In Nairobi, innovation hubs are driving youth entrepreneurship. In Freetown, local communities are mapping informal settlements to integrate them into planning systems. These examples remind us that resilience is not just about infrastructure, it is about people. When citizens participate, cities thrive. Say after me. When citizens participate, cities thrive. Universities too have a critical role in producing architects, planners, and environmental scientists who think sustainably, design locally, and act globally. Slide 6, investing in our people. Slide 6, investing in our people, human capital as a cornerstone of prosperity. I used to know a song. Ọmọ sọ wípé ìwé kíkọ́ láìsí ọkọ́ àti àdá kò ì pé o, kò ì pé o. Iṣẹ́ àgbẹ̀ níṣẹ́ ilẹ̀ wa. Ẹni kò ṣiṣẹ́ á máa jà. Àní jalè lórúkọ Jésù. Distinguished guests, investing in our people, human capital as a cornerstone of prosperity is essential, and metaphorically, this song that I've just sung refers to it. Because when we invest in people, we give them the skills that they need. When we invest in people, we are able to make sure that whatever they do will speak to the needs of people. Like we normally say, innovation, necessity is the mother of innovation. So, distinguished guests, let us be honest. The wealth of Africa lies not beneath its soil, but within its people. Our greatest resources in the African mind, creative, courageous, and resilient. With over 60% of Africans under the age of 25, we stand at the brink of either a demographic dividend or a demographic disaster. The difference will depend on how we educate, how we train, and how we empower our young people. We must move beyond education for certification to education for transformation. And that is why last year, the African Union theme of the year was Educate an African Fit for the 21st Century. If we do not educate our children, like you will say, Andrew, no check out, oh, Nigeria go better. Nigeria will not be better because the kids will not have the right skills and they are looking for greener pastures. And if they don't have that greener pastures, what do? They seek asylum abroad. What do? They take themselves into hazardous ways to cross and go beyond the other side because they are looking for greener pastures. And that is why we have graves on the Mediterranean Sea without names, and they die in the Sahara Desert. The onus is on us that transformation begins with us. How we think, how we see, how we hear, and what actions we take. Remember that over 60% of Africa under the age of 25, we stand at the brink of either a demographic dividend or a demographic disaster. The difference, like I said, will depend on how we educate, train, and empower our young people. Let's create co-creation spaces for the youth of Africa. When you say the youth are the future of tomorrow, that future begins now, and they need to start sitting on the table now. The Continental Education Strategy for Africa, which is our Bible for education in Africa, is a complete work written by the best minds. And we need to start implementing the various 12, 14 objectives there. When they talk about teacher training professional, when they talk about STEM, when we talk about the culture of reading, when we talk about lifelong learning, because just imagine, we have degrees, philosophy, religion, English, right? What do we do with it? When we graduate, what do we want to become? Not only a teacher. That is why lifelong learning becomes very important. When we live here, many of us, many of the youth, when they go abroad, they go and do LPN. What are they doing? Health. They read history, but they do LPN. What is important abroad? You must have a job to put food on the table. Why can't we do those specialized skills in our own universities? The Continental Education Strategy for Africa and the Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategy for Africa already give us frameworks, but policies alone will not suffice. We need passion, we need purpose, and we need partnership. May we not become cemeteries of seminars and workshops, where at the end of the day, when we finish a seminar or a workshop or a conference, we take our badges back home and we drop them somewhere and wait for the next year. Action, action, implementation is what Mother Africa is crying for. Slide 7, universities. I don't know if you ever look at the University of Ibadan anthem. As we were singing it today, we remember that I want to start with that anthem. It says, Unibadan fountainhead of true learning, deep and sound, soothing spring for all who taste, bands of knowledge to advance, pledge to serve our cherished goals, self-reliance, unity, a nation made with pride. War that is truly free. Can you imagine the sense in what we are singing? Can you imagine the commitment in this particular first verse that we've taken? How many of us respect the calling of being a greatest UIs? How many of us are ambassadors of this institution? We pledge to serve our cherished goals, self-reliance and unity, that our nation may with pride help to build a world that is fully thief. And that is why Nelson Mandela said education is the greatest weapon that can transform the world. And we go, Unibadan, primus inter pares, nolus secundus. Clap for me, I still remember. That is how we used to hail ourselves, oh, greatest UI, primus inter pares, nolus secund, first among equals, second to none. We raise true minds for a noble cause. Social justice, equal chances. That is something that we don't have in Africa. Social justice, equal chances, we do not have. They said greatness won with honest toil. But there are scammers among our youths. Amen. You are saying amen. Okay. Guide our people this to know. Wisdom's best to service done, help enshrine the right to learn. For a mind that knows is a mind that is free. May God help us. May God help us. So universities like this great University of Ibadan must become think tanks for national transformation, not ivory towers, but engines of social renewal. Education, repositioning universities. Education shapes the Africa we want. Universities must. One, the education that we want, first, function as brains of the continent, driving research and innovation. Decolonize curricula, integrating African epistemologies and local knowledge. Produce graduates equipped to tackle contemporary challenges in technology, governance, and industry. Case example, the African Virtual University and the University of Cape Town, Africa's languages programs show that context-driven education strengthens identity and human capital, according to AU 2021 and Hogan 2020. Now let's look at science, technology, and innovation. These pillars are of development. African academies must lead in STI policies and research. Innovation ecosystems should link universities, industry, and government. In the days of Operation Feed the Nation, what we knew was that because of Operation Feed the Nation, schools of agriculture were created, true or false? And because schools of agriculture were created, students went in and came out having skills to be able to produce food. Technologies must address local realities, energy, agriculture, healthcare. I'll take a case study out of the country. The South Africa CSIR collaborates with universities on renewable energy, showing direct link between research and development. In Iran, they have what they call technology transfer offices. As students are doing their PhDs and are carrying out their researches, then the university, through this office, will do what? Will connect that research to an industry. The industry works with the researcher, and before the person graduates, he or she already has a job in that place. It used to be in those days, when we talk about Shell Petroleum, I think the professors who are, is it ancestors you call them? They can tell us if that was not true. Before, those who were doing engineering, Shell Petroleum will come, and they will take them before they graduate, and they employ them. That should come back. Industrialization and infrastructure. Look at the Ajaokuta Steel Complex. It illustrates the foundation of industrial capacity, localizing the fourth industrial revolution through artificial intelligence, digital platforms, and robotics. This can create jobs and technology sovereignty. And as I often say, the African University must decolonize not only its curriculum, but its consciousness. We must embrace African epistemologies, indigenous knowledge, and cultural wisdom, integrating them with global science to create solutions that fit our realities. When COVID came, many of us discovered our traditional medicines. And then the big people could not travel out because all borders were closed. So it became important for them to develop the hospitals here in their various continents. So education, therefore, is not just about producing graduates, it is about producing change agents. Do we have change agents in this hall? Slide 8, I will soon finish. I hope I'm not boring you. It is it Bob Marley who sang, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free ourselves." Where are the Rastafarians? You see, you know, when I was here, there used to be the Kegite Club. For me, the Kegite Club was part of this. And we used to have some jokes that we say, which because I'm commissioner, I will not be able to say today. But if my tongue loses and I say it, please forgive me. Governance, ethics, and leadership for transformation. Slide 8. Prosperity without good governance is impossible. Africa needs leaders who are ethical, visionary, and accountable. Institutions must work, not just exist on paper. A leader who has consciousness and a vision will be able to make changes. But when there is no consciousness and there is no vision, then the leader will not be able to make impact. That is why in Hosea, it is written, "My people suffer because of lack of knowledge." May this not be our portion. Look at Rwanda. Look at Botswana. Look at Mauritius. Their progress is not magic. It is effective governance, inclusivity, transparency, and accountability. Women and youths are not just beneficiaries. They must be drivers of change. Policies, innovation, and leadership must reflect their voices. The Africa we want cannot be created with half the population on the sidelines when they are not linesmen. Now, let us speak frankly about governance, the cornerstone of Agenda 2063. Good governance is not merely the absence of corruption. Do you know that? It is the presence of justice, integrity, and accountability. Like I watched the story of Senator Natasha. I followed it for some time before I stopped following. We need leaders who will make sure that Africa, who know and realize that Africa cannot rise on shaky foundations. It must rise on the pillars of ethical leadership. Students must attend lectures, and they get their continuous assessment, and they must write their exams. Lecturers must not give STMs. I hope you know what is STM. sexually transmitted marks. Yes. Yes, they must not give STMs. Because the slogan that you used to hear, back for ground. You understand what I'm saying? We have to be responsible. Even if your daughter is in your class and fails that paper, let your daughter fail. By the time the person comes back the next time, the person will be more serious. That is transparency. Those are the ethics we are speaking about. There was a minister in my country who pushed his son to become a medical doctor. When he was sick, the doctor that was on duty was that son. He refused that son to treat him. Why? Because he knew how the son got into the school. Africa cannot rise on shaky foundations. It must rise on the pillars of ethical leadership. We need leaders who are servants, not masters. My prime minister said to me one day when we went to visit him on behalf of the University of Bamenda, where I was deputy vice chancellor, I know a leader by the way he treats his subordinates. Ẹ má jẹ́ ká fi ayé sún àwọn kankan nítorí pé alówó. It's not good. We must try to respect people. The Africa we want, when we say Ubuntu, Ubuntu, I am because you are. My existence depends on you, and your own existence depends on me. That is the African Renaissance. When we say, Amasope, Bowo Fagba, Moringeni. You should, oh God. Bowo, Prof, no. Bowo Fagba. They used to say that you respect your elders so that your years might be successful. I don't know that song very well, but it's echoing, and I will leave it. So we need leaders who are servants and not masters. You respect people. Leaders who listen before they lead. Leaders who understand that public office is a sacred trust, not a private business. The African peer review mechanism and the African governance architecture are commendable initiatives, but institutions are only as strong as the values that guide them. Our young people must be mentored, not just in management, but in morality. Universities must teach governance not only as theory, but as practice, through transparency, merit, and service. Let us celebrate examples of accountability and inclusion, Rwanda's gender parity in parliament, Botswana's integrity in administration, and Mauritius' model of participatory democracy. Let us also embrace technology, e-governance systems that enhance transparency, digital platforms that engage citizens, and innovation that make corruption not only immoral, but impossible. Africa's transformation demands leadership that is visionary yet humble, bold yet accountable, powerful yet principled. So as we transition to the next phase of our reflection tonight, let us remember this. Agenda 2063, like the VC said in his statement, is not an event. It is a journey, a generational covenant. And this journey begins with us here tonight as we commit ourselves to building resilient cities, investing in human capital, and leading with integrity. Because the Africa we want will not build itself. We must build it together. Slide 9. Health, environment, and sustainable communities. Ladies and gentlemen, if Africa must rise, our people must be healthy, our communities must be sustainable, and our environment must be protected. A strong health system is more than hospitals and medicine. It is the backbone of productivity, innovation, and resilience. It is what keeps our teachers in classrooms, our farmers in the farms, and our entrepreneurs at work, and our dreams alive. A healthy man is a wealthy man. The COVID-19 pandemic taught us a sobering lesson. Weak health systems weaken nations. It reminded us that our hospitals must be prepared, our supply chains must be resilient, and our health workers, the unsung heroes, must be valued, trained, and protected. But let us go deeper. Our health is tied to our environment, true or false? I know that, Professor Adoegu, you are doing something on environmental, is it toxicity? You cannot have a healthy people on a sick planet. Every polluted river, every forest burned, every careless waste dump. I hope they don't exist again. These are silent killers that rob our children of the future. We must therefore embrace what the World Health Organization calls the One Health approach, recognizing that the health of humans, animals, and the environment are the same. Imagine, for instance, green hospitals powered by solar energy, reducing waste, recycling water, and setting examples of sustainability. Imagine communities where health centers work hand in hand with schools, churches, and local leaders to promote clean living and preventive care. Community engagement is the heartbeat of public health. When people participate in their health decisions, they own the process and they protect their results. And above all, let us invest in our health workforce. Africa's doctors, nurses, and community health workers are the custodians of life. When we train them, empower them, and give them dignity, we build the foundation of a prosperous and resilient continent. Slide 10. I'm almost done. Cultural identity and the Pan-African Renaissance. My brothers and sisters, let us turn our gaze to something equally vital, our cultural identity, the very soul of our continent. I'm laughing because I remembered when no, I'm not going to use it. It will bounce back on me. I will say it. I remembered when we went to class, one of our classes, and our lecturer came in to teach us social linguistics. And the lecturer started, the social linguistic factor that affect Nigeria as a second language. Then we started laughing. But my laughter was the loudest. He said, "You, get up, what is your name?" I said, "My name is Sarah." "Oh, I'm talking, you are laughing, I'm talking, you are laughing. And you are still laughing. Walk out of my class." And for 2 weeks, I was out of the class. Why did I laugh? The mother tongue influence. I was not supposed to laugh. Because if you don't have your mother tongue, you've lost your identity. When we were in Kegite, they used to say that, "Don't be like my friend." They used to say that, "Don't be like my friend who went to a vendor. Vendor, I want Champion newspaper." And the Calabar man looked at the Ibadan man speaking. Say, "Look at this foolish Yoruba man calling Yampion, Champion." At the end of the day, both of them did not call it rightly. They were trying to call Champion. So, that is our cultural identity. Your cultural identity places you and gives you confidence. A tree without roots cannot stand. A people without culture cannot thrive. We should not be like those who go to the US just for 3 months and they come back speaking through their nostrils. No. Our cultural identity. Do you know that when they say water, it's not correct phonologically, it's water. But because we want to practice what they are saying, to show that we are being told, we fall in the same line and we say water, computer. It is not correct. And then again, our young boys, when you wear your trouser, it comes down, and I see your blue-white pants, and then you call it swag. It's a lie. It is prisoners who dress like that in the US because they don't allow them wear belts in prison. Don't take the wrong culture. So Africa's rebirth depends not only on technology or economics, but on our identity. Isidore Kweho, one of my professors, wrote a novel, "Call Me by My Rightful Name." our languages, our arts, our heritage. Even in our food, as I came, I was asking, is Innostrate still there? We used to go there to go and eat gbegiri and amala, abula. It was going well. Language is more than communication. It is culture embodied. Over 3,000 African languages carry the wisdom, humor, and history of our ancestors. Yet, many of them are disappearing, replaced by tongues that once colonized our minds. It is time to revive them. That is why I appreciate the power of the spoken word when we are doing engagements, when people need to come and talk, to come and sing. It takes us back to our roots. Let us teach our children to read, write, and create in their own language. Let us celebrate literature. Many of us seated here, our children don't speak our dialect because we feel that it is a show that you have arrived when your kids speak only English. Where will they take that to? Because language is an equalizer. If I enter anywhere and I start speaking my Yoruba, everybody will listen to me. Isn't it? Because they will think I'm Yoruba. You understand what I'm saying? And that is the way I even won the Pan-African University hosting in Cameroon. When we went to the AU to go and lobby, I was Inspector of Academic Affairs, #1 in that time. And you know, in the AU, where we normally do the assembly, you come out during break, and as I was walking away, I heard people speaking Yoruba. That was a Nigerian delegation. And I was walking towards them, because it's been a long time I've heard Yoruba. I live in Cameroon. And then they were saying, Cameroonian, presidency Power Council Fuwa, I wanted for support, láti host the Power headquarters, the Pan-African University headquarters. And I said, Timba lo sọ fún wọn, ṣe máa ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe wí. Then they said, but níbo ló máa ti rí wọn, òkúkú mọ̀ wọn. Mo ní, no, me, I'm Cameroonian. No. He said, no, you're a Lagosian. I said, yes, you are right. I was born and raised in Lagos. I went and stole my minister. My minister stood up when it was time for voting. Cameroon steps down for Nigeria to chair the Power Council. That is how we got the Power Rectorate in Cameroon. The Pan-African University Rectorate is hosted in Yaoundé in Cameroon. The power of language. From the talking drums of Yoruba land to the poetic rhythms of Swahili, from the sculptures of Benin to the mask of Cameroon, our earth is not just beautiful, it is powerful. It tells the world who we are and what we stand for. Cultural heritage. Our festivals, I remember Festac 1977. Our monuments, our stories binds us together as Africans. It reminds us that before the colonizer came, we had civilization. And long after, we will have continuity. This is the Pan-African Renaissance, the revival of African pride, African knowledge, and African unity. It calls us to honor our past while innovating for our future. Slide 11. From dream to reality. Conclusion. The moral imperative of action. Agenda 2063. All hands on deck for the Africa we want. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Agenda 2063 is not just a roadmap. It is a moral compass. It calls for responsibility. It tells us that development without ethics is empty, that leadership without service is hollow, that progress without people is meaningless, and that ignorance is the biggest killer. That is why I said Bob Marley sang, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. There is so much in our heads. It begins here. If you don't change your mind, you yourself cannot be a world changer. Africa's transformation depends on our courage to act, to rise above excuses and build systems that work. Slide 12. Partnership and global positioning. Africa in a multipolar world. We live in a multipolar world, true or false? True or false? A world of many powers, many players, and many possibilities. Africa must no longer be a pawn on the chessboard of global politics. We must be players strategic, confident, and coordinated. Look at the G20. They put Africa as a country when other countries are standing individually on their own. Agenda 2063 calls us to diversify our partnership, not to isolate ourselves, but to engage on our own terms. Make we not be mumu. Don't accept what they bring because you just want to accept it. Accept something that is good for you, good for your people, collective responsibility. Yes, we must continue to work with traditional partners in Europe and America, but we must also build strong bridges with the global south, with Asia, with Latin America, and among ourselves. Partnerships should no longer be about charity, but shared prosperity, a win-win partnership. No longer about extraction, but exchange. No longer about dependency, but dignity. And that is why I'm still clapping till tomorrow for Burkina Faso, for Niger, for Chad, for the courage they've had to send away the colonizers from their countries. When Africa sits at the global table, our voice must not echo others. We are not ranzeros, copying and copycats. It must carry the conviction of a continent that knows its what. We bring to the world not just raw materials, but raw intelligence, raw creativity, and raw courage. That is what I call Africa's true export. Can somebody tell me the title of this lecture? Clap for yourselves. You are good students. Yes. You are good students. Agenda 2063. All hands on deck for the Africa we want. And what is that Africa? An Africa that is a paradise. Do you know that in the next years, there will be no youth in many other countries? That they will need us? Do you know if we are skilled, empowered, and we capacitate, empower our women and youth and children, that they will be looking for labor force and they will come to Africa to come and get people to assist them? Do you know that with the right skills, many of these youths seated here will become entrepreneurs? Do you know that if we lay our bed, that as you lay your bed, that is how you shall lie on it? If we want to sleep, the sleep of peace, all hands must be on deck. Everybody must do what they need to do. Friends, no vision can live without action. And no action can succeed without collaboration. You cannot do research alone. You must do it with collaboration. You cannot do development, technology alone. You must do it with collaboration. Agenda 2063 demands that all hands, every hand, be on deck. Governments must lead with transparency and accountability, crafting policies that serve the people. The private sector must innovate, invest, and create jobs. Universities must generate research that solves African problems, not just replicate Western theories. African solutions to African challenges. Civil society must speak truth to power, amplifying the voices of those behind. And citizens, especially the youth, must take ownership of the Africa they dream of. Each and every one of us has a role. Each of us has power. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa stands at a crossroads. We remain passive or we can rise together. In Pan-African solidarity, we can build resilient cities, we can empower our youth, we can govern with integrity, and we can reclaim our knowledge systems. The Africa we want is possible, but only if we embrace the moral, I'm already on slide 13, but only if we embrace the moral imperative of action. Imagine what could happen if every graduate here tonight pledged to mentor one young person, start one community initiative, or create one African solution to one African problem. The ripple effect will be unstoppable. Let us replace dependency with dignity and potential with productivity. The baton of history is in our hands. Kwame Nkrumah reminded us that true liberation and development are inseparable. So tonight, as we dine, as we celebrate, as we look into the future, let us remember that the future is not somewhere we are going. It is something we are creating. Let us build an Africa where health and hope walk hand in hand, an Africa where culture is our currency and knowledge our wealth. Let us build an Africa that partners globally but stands proudly on its own. That is the Africa we want and the Africa we must create. The time is now, and you are the game changers. The responsibility is ours, and the world is watching. Let us leave this hall tonight with commitment in our hearts and action in our hands, determined that by 2063, Africa will not be defined by its challenges, but by the boldness of its vision, the energy of its people, and the strength of its unity. Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, is in your hands, is in my hands, and it is also in the hands of those who lead policies, of business minders, of the local women, the rural women, who are able to farm and give us food to eat. It is very important that we work together in line with the principle of Ubuntu. I am because you are. Thank you, and may God bless the University of Ibadan. May God bless Nigeria, and may God bless Africa. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Another round of applause for her. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Every time I say it on this rostrum, people say it's because I'm the public relations officer of the university. But I keep saying it, that if anything is good and excellent, there it must be from UI. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have all heard the lecture, and the lecturer has challenged us that all hands must be on deck for the Africa we want by 2063. We have a culture in UI. You do not come and go back empty-handed. No, But before we appreciate the guest lecturer, I'd just like to invite the Vice Chancellor to make his closing remarks. And then during the vote of thanks, we'll show our appreciation to the guest lecturer. Please, let's put our hands together for the Vice Chancellor, Professor K.O. Adebowale.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, can we appreciate Professor Sarah Agbor again? He's a Nigerian by adoption, but he belongs to Cameroon. Don't worry, we will continue to share. We will share you with Cameroon. There is no doubt that Agenda 2063 is very audacious. As bold, as courageous, as audacious as it is, it demands our collective responsibility. It demands that we should be resilient. It demands inclusivity. And it has been said, it is a process. On the program, I'm supposed to give my remarks. I'm going to submit my remarks to just two interventions. Comments, very, very brief comments, and perhaps question. only two. I want one from my right and one from my left. But if there is no comments and so on, I will hand over the microphone to the registrar to give the vote of thanks. Is there anyone here? Is there anyone here? One here, one there. Where is the one here? The one at the back, please move. The one with the man with the red cap is a chief, Abi. Red cap chief. And the one at the back here, please come. Very brief. I'll give you my microphone. 1 minute.
Yeah, thanks. Rising Osazua, University of Ibadan, School of Business. Yeah, excellent presentation. She talked about participatory democracy in Mauritius, and she talked about citizen participation. However, in Africa, we have a very serious culture of silence that is inhibiting our progress and development. And when you speak out, you become a rebel, so to say, and it is killing this, even in the academia, even in the universities. She talked also about collaboration, research. That's a big gap. But even within the university, for there to be collaboration between people in the same department, in the same faculty, or with the industry, there's a lot of gap that is creating so much of problems. Thanks, sir.
I collect my microphone.
Thank you so much, Ma. That was a very brilliant presentation. But we know that nations rise and fall on the altar of leadership. Ma, what can we do to rejig our leadership recruitment process such that we will throw up people who are committed to the people rather than the kind of leaders we are throwing up? The truth of the matter is that the system that is in place is not throwing up leaders that are committed to development and Africa progress.
Do you want to comment?
Thank you very much for those questions. The first speaker, what you've mentioned also happens in my country. People don't want to collaborate. And that is why we are saying Agenda 2063, all hands on deck. There is a place of partnership, and that partnership must take place. And that is why I said we have to start emancipating ourselves, seated here, change our mentality so that we can be able to do research and collaborate with one another. When you speak about our political standing, it is something that happens in Africa. But those who are changing are changing. Those who want the change can do the change. But the first thing that begins is that you, as a citizen, if you are the age of to vote, have your voter's card. People, that culture of silence is not good. You must learn to speak out. Speaking out does not mean you have to be rebellious, or you have to be resistant, or you have to be destructive. No. There is a way you can speak and that you can, and people can listen to you. And how do you start that? When I went back home, I joined the debate club. I began speaking my point of view on the national television. Different topics would be brought, and then we'll debate about it, pros and cons. You create awareness, you create sensitization. It becomes very, very important. When you are in class as a lecturer, when I enter the class, the first day I'm entering the class and I'm meeting new students, I give them my rules and my regulations. And I tell them that you have come to shape your future. But these are the do's and the don'ts that you must never find yourself in. We ourselves should be the change we want to see. That is all what I can say for now.
Thank you very much.
Vice Chancellor, sir. assignment is going to be broken into two parts. When the Vice Chancellor told us of his choice for the convocation lecture this year, he didn't tell us that he is bringing here his twin sister. I used to think that my Vice Chancellor is the best orator that you can have. I have seen his twin sister. I actually thought the pitch was going to drop when she started, but I noticed that there was no dull moment. So the first part of this assignment is to appreciate our own. She speaks, I'm still confused. She speaks Yoruba and she's Cameroonian. Okay, we'll talk about that later. The first part is to appreciate Her Excellency Professor Sarah Anyang Agbor for accepting to come, for coming, and for delivering that powerful lecture. And I will invite two people to help me because this is a heavy assignment. The first person is our Ochara Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation, and Strategic Partnerships, to please join me. And the next person is my sister, Dr. Mercy Iruaganachi, the University Librarian. We're going to say thank you in three ways. First one is to present this plaque. We have a plaque to be presented by the DVC on the blue carpet, please.
Prof, you blew our mind. Your distinguished career, your extensive experience on the development of human capital on the African continent, your promotion of the epistemologies of African indigeneity has been brought to the fore through this lecture. You have enriched us, you have enriched our minds and that of the students and that of the university community at large. So on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, the university, I want to thank you not only for your time, I want to thank you for your commitment to the Africanness of the African man. I also want to thank you for bringing this knowledge down to earth for all of us. So, as a token, we present to you this plaque. We hope you will place it in a place, remember us, and to continue to promote the Africanness of the African man. Thank you.
Wait. We're not done, so the university librarian will present another gift on behalf of the University of Ibadan.
Let me join my sister to appreciate you for that awesome lecture. I sat there and I was like, no, I haven't heard anything like this before. Sincerely, it is the first, bred by the first, and the best. So she must be top. We want to appreciate you the African way. Like I say, when a child comes home, like you have come today, I'm surprised that nobody has called you Omobo Wale. When a child comes home to visit the parents, comes with goodies like you have lectured us today, the child does not also go empty. No matter how wretched the parents might be, there's a gift to take away. And so in that, guys, we're giving you this gift tonight to say we love you, we welcome you, we appreciate all that you have done and all that you are to us. I'm surprised to know that you are a Cameroonian and you speak Yoruba so fluently. I want to be like you. You teach me the secret. So on behalf of the council, the Senate, the principal officers, our esteemed deans and heads of departments, the students, the entire community of the University of Ibadan, we give this gift to you.
And now may I respectfully invite the Mogaji of UI, the Vice Chancellor, to join them on the blue carpet with the plaque to have a photograph. Now we also have a banner for you that you will take to Cameroon. Put it in your office so that people will see that you have come home. Dayo. Thank you very much. You may return to your seats. Now, let me appreciate this wonderful audience. We thank you for coming to witness yet another show of excellence in the University of Ibadan. I appreciate greatly the students' body of this university, ably led by the Student Union President and his executive. We appreciate all members of staff of this university who are here present. We sincerely appreciate members of the governing council that are here present. We appreciate directors. We appreciate most sincerely our living legends. Thank you for coming again, especially Baba Emeritus Professor Pai Obayan, Emeritus Professor Bangoshe, Emeritus Professor Femi Bamirodi, 10th Vice Chancellor of our great university. Dr. Gani Adeniran, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate the woman who gave me shoes that are bigger than my legs, the immediate past registrar of the University of Ibadan. The shoes are really heavy, but thank God for your support all the time. Let me appreciate all the deans of faculty that are here present. Thank you very much, including the Dean of Students. And now let me appreciate the Provost of the Postgraduate College and the Provost of the College of Medicine. Profound appreciation to the University Librarian, the University Bossa, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation, and Strategic Partnerships, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration. Let me pause to appreciate the organizers of this program. The Ceremonials Committee, ably led by Professor Adenike Akinjobi. We appreciate the gentlemen of the press and our public relations unit. Now, finally, let me appreciate again our lecturer, our convocation lecturer 2025. She's been so many things put together this evening. I think the university librarian took it from my mouth to call her Omobowale. I didn't know she's a musician. She sang so well. I didn't know she's also a philosopher. Of the likes of Bob Marley. No wonder. She's also a prophet. She can see into the future. You can see 2063 ahead of us. You can see the passion in her. Thank you very much, ma. We are most grateful. I said finally. Now, finally, let me appreciate my boss, the 13th Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, of the only university in Nigeria. Her Excellency said there are only 2 universities in Africa, the UI and others. Fine. But in Nigeria, there is only one. All the others you hear of are campuses of the University of Ibadan. I have always said this. Anybody who wants to challenge that should just show me one university established in Nigeria that does not have the imprint of the University of Ibadan. So the Vice Chancellor of the only university in Nigeria, the first and the best, Professor Kayode Adibowale, MNI FAS, we appreciate you very much. Thank you for keeping the flag flying, the flag of excellence bequeathed unto you and us. Thank you very much for your leadership. We appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we take the anthems in reverse order and remain standing while the academic procession files out.
Let's serve our
please remain standing and allow the academic procession to file out first. Then we move out after them.